Okay. Um, Hopefully this works for us. Again, hopefully I haven't read your assignments yet, so I don't know how last week went. Um, but we'll try this again, and then if it's clear that this like format of me kind of just talking and lecturing this way and helping you, if this is not helpful, then I'll figure out something else. But for the few people that I did this for last year, it was like really helpful. So then I just thought, why don't I do it for everybody? So this week, we're going to be looking at some of the same things: form and texture. And IB requires that we look at a large variety of music, and so today this one is gonna fit in what is called AOI, or areas of inquiry, number one. So the different areas of inquiry I can explain later. AOI one, which is cultural, political, or religious. Oh, I didn't spell it right. So, Senzeni is an old South African song, and then it became a like one of the main protest songs in the apartheid movement. I actually don't know. You'd have to do some research on this. I don't know if it was written like before apartheid. I think it was, but I could be wrong. Maybe it was written during the apartheid time. I don't know. So, I guess I can just look at real quick. So, Senzeni history. But it's a very, very famous South African song. And again, the apartheid. So it says, notice it says it emerged around the 1950s. But maybe we don't know when it was actually written. So it might be that it was comes from before then. I don't know. You'd have to do some more research. Don't say anything definitively unless you unless you have something, a reputable site to reference. So commonly sung at funerals, anti-apartheid. I don't know. But the text just means what have we done? That's what Senzeni na. And yeah, that's not a site for you to reference. It looked official to me, but it definitely was not. So maybe that one would be. Anyway, I'm going to move on. Okay, so regardless of when it was written, it was used very frequently during the apartheid protests and movement, and kind of became one of several songs that represented the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. Okay, and so we are going to look at it, and we're looking specifically at texture and form. My encouragement is for you to listen all the way through this. Okay, I'll try and remember to put the link. Maybe I'll just put it right now. Oh no, I'm not going to do it now. I'll do it later. I'll put the link in, where I post this on the assignment. But listen to it once all the way through, and that way because right now I'm going to stop a lot. Okay, here we go. Hopefully you can hear it. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention, I'm going to do a different type of analysis here. I can't remember if I did this on the Beauty and the Beast or not. I'm going to do a timestamp, okay, which means that I'm going to using recording from there. Okay. Well, why did it go down there? That's stupid. There we go. Oh my gosh. Stop. There we go. Okay. So that's where I got the recording from right there. And now I'm just going to look at the seconds, and when something happens, I'm going to mark it down. So it'll make more sense in a second. So the singing begins 9 seconds. Oh, it's a soloist. One vocalist. Oh, another voice came in. Did you hear that? So from 9 seconds to about 47 seconds is what that was. And then that's for 9 seconds to 45. No, I think the little second sign goes after. I don't know what I'm doing. Or you could do like 0, 0.09. That's probably the better way to do it. 0.45. Okay, and this was a soloist, so it is just homophonic texture. Oh shoot, that's the other thing I forgot to add in here is the form. Okay, so maybe insert column left. There we go. So I'll just say form. Okay, so it's a soloist singing. In this case, it was a female soloist, and it was a homophonic texture. It sounds mostly held in the upper low register, so that it sounds. I'm going to make the font much smaller, sorry, just so I can fit everything. So hopefully it's still big enough for you to see, so that it sounds strong but desperate and almost wailing-like. Okay, so remember, this is sung at funerals. It's meant to be sung like a sad mourning. That's another almost mourning / wailing like. Okay, so what was the form of the melody? So the melody is Senzeni, 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 if I remember right. Let's just double check one time. First phrase, A. That one went up. So it's different. That's B. Oh, that is different. Oh, what just happened? Okay, so all four phrases were unique and different, but they all phrases use the same text and last the same length. It's a little bit hard to hear the tempo right now, so I'm going to put that in later, okay? Because Senzeni, Senzeni, I think it's just one measure and last one measure. So each phrase is basically one measure long. But I'll double check that later when the tempo is more steady. What texture is that? I think you know. Okay, so at 103 is when the tenor bass came in. So we're going to go 0.45 to, shoot, now I don't remember, what did I say, 103? Yeah, 103 to 103, okay, multiple female soloists. Senzeni, Senzeni. I think it was the same melody as opening section, but each soloist singing in their own time. Polyphonic texture, okay? A round or canon without strict. So what do I mean by that? that means that they're not all actually, there's not like a beat that's carrying them all together. If you listen to it, that's what makes it sound messy, is they are all going on their own beat. Okay, so that section lasted until 150. You may love that, and you actually may hate it. I don't know what's going on. I think it'll make more sense in a second. This whole thing is really like an intro. Okay, so what do we have going on here? We have all soprano, alto voices are operating as soloists, while tenor bass voices are singing together. Okay, so the tenor bass voice is singing main melody with harmony, which was the A, B, C, D in tempo. And the texture is still polyphonic. Specifically, all soprano, alto voices are unique and singing at their own tempo. You can phrase that however you want, right? And then all tenor bass voices are singing homophonically. I don't know if I can say that. I think I can. Okay, so one thing to point out is that we have moved from no strict tempo to the TB singing in strict tempo, while the SA are still singing in unregulated tempo. What does that mean? It means there's like a beat. Senzeni na, Senzeni na, Senzeni, right? While the sopranos and altos, there is no beat. And that's what makes it sound so kind of like just chaotic and messy. And there's no strict tempo, okay? Now let's see what's gonna happen next. What do you think's gonna happen, right? We're gonna go into strict tempo. Oh, we're back to the solos. Shoot, when was that? 150. Okay, 258. So 258. So they get through this melody twice, and both times the soloist is leading, and then the ensemble gives the echo. Now, what are they singing? And obviously, there's a spoken part. They're just singing the same thing they sang before, but on oo.
Ngoba ngelinye ilanga sizohlangana ezulwini.
3:30. I'll come back to this in just a second. I'm trying to type quickly. Choir singing main melody with harmony. Form is still A, B, C, D. No lyrics. Choir sings on. Ooh. There we go. Texture is homophonic with spoken dialogue on top. What is the spoken dialogue translation? Right? I wonder. We should look it up and find out. How does it relate to the rest of the song? All right. So now, shoot, where were we at? It was like 3:31, I think. Yeah, 3:30. Do you hear that? So that was 3:31 until 4. 3:31 until 4. And I love this piece. I love this song so much. Oh my gosh. I hope some of you enjoy this. It helps that I went to South Africa, and it helps that I sat in on a rehearsal on that choir. So I'm very familiar with them. And they were like truly amazing. Okay, so that was soloist, choir, and high soprano. We call it a descant. You can call it just soprano part or soprano melody. But there's basically three things going on, and it was the A, B, C, D. Just went through it one time. All right, and now this time the soloist, so it's polyphonic texture throughout. And what's this? Form. One thing we can talk about here is that now the choir is singing lead, and the soloist is, it sounds like improvising a response to the choir. Soprano, descant, high, ooh. So here the choir was singing like the soloist did, Senzeni na, and then the choir goes Senzeni na. Now here the choir was going Senzeni na, Senzeni na, and then the soloist did a little response. So it's been flipped. This is polyphonic. This is polyphonic call and response. But to be clear, let me put it this way. Choir is the leader, and soloist now responds. Okay? So it's kind of just again, it's a very simple, short, quick little song, but you can see how they're changing the texture and changing just the form of it to make it last 4.5 minutes. All right, so now we're coming up. What's this last part? Now the soloist takes back over as leader. Do you hear that high soprano? gosh, chills. If you don't have chills, that's okay. But I do. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. Okay, to 440. 440. And basically what we did is we did this exact thing here. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. But there's one difference. Do you remember what the difference was? It did not go through the melody twice this time. And soprano descant. And I'm not even going to call it descant. Soprano pedal tone is called. A pedal tone is where you're just singing one note for a long time. Oftentimes the pedal tone is in the bass, but in this section it was in the soprano. Soprano pedal tone on ooh. Okay? It just means it's like that ooh, right? But it was like way crazy high. And now this time the soloist was the leader. They started each phrase. And then the choir responds. Okay? And that's it. So now we can talk through, just to close it up, a couple things. Tux Camerata is from the University of Pretoria. Right there it says University of Pretoria. Pretoria is one of the biggest cities in South Africa. The three biggest cities, right, are Johannesburg, Cape Town, Pretoria. So Pretoria, this is the university there. It's interesting, like, so South Africa has enormous racial diversity, right? Because you had all different, you had Europeans congregating there starting in like, I don't even know, the 1400s or maybe even earlier. And you had Asians trading and living there. And so definitely from like the 1600s on, you've had strong Asian, both Eastern and Western Asian, and South Asian, and then a strong European presence, especially from the 16 and 1700s. So you have this enormous racial mix, and yet 20 years ago, this class would have been 95% white. And the country has really struggled. Let me see if we can get some more, what is it now? And I know it's not, we don't use this term in America, and so I'm not trying to be offensive, but in South Africa, they use the term. There are black citizens, and there are colored citizens, and there are white citizens. And they still today use that terminology. And they see it, as I understand it from my visit and communicating with them, it used to be a way to categorize people right under the apartheid system, which was totally wrong, and the country is trying to come to terms with that. Now they use it almost as a sense of, I think some people are trying to take ownership of those titles, right? So someone who is not white and not native South African black, they would identify as a colored person, and some people, there's a movement for that to take ownership of that, right? The same, maybe in a similar way that the word queer, right, was used as a slur many years ago, and then the queer community has taken ownership of that word. So now we look at this picture, we do see a much more rich, diverse between white, colored, and black. And so I just wanted to point that out, that this is really real to all of these singers, and we might, like I said, I sat in on their rehearsal. They take their charge to sing and to share their voice and to share their message with South Africa. They take it very seriously, and to share it with the world. And they all believe in this. They know that they are singing in a multicultural choir. And literally just 20 years ago, it did not look like this. Now, are the racial differences, are they in a good place now? No. By no means no. South Africa it's in a rough spot. I mean, it is the racial tensions and the prejudices. I mean, it is so bad. So I just want to point that out, that they are singing this song, and they I believe that they believe that there's an important message behind that, and here it is in 2020, 2019. They sang this, and it's still such a massive issue there, the difference in racial tension and racial opportunities, so I can't stress enough how important this choir singing this is, and what they stand for to the world. All right, sidebar, sorry. With that said, we can now look at now Michael Barrett is the director of that choir, okay? And why did he make it this way? Well, we don't know. So we don't want to say that we know, but we can say my interpretation of this would be, you can use that phrase, or you can say I can see how the impression would be given, but we can't say this is what Michael Barrett was wanting. You start with the soloist, right? This is a protest song, and it's a mourning protest song, right? This kind of mourning. And we start with one person. And then we bring in a whole group of people, all right? And we could even go so far as to say it starts with a mother who has lost her son. Because that was the mothers lost daughters, but more so it was sons during apartheid protests. So it starts with a mother, and again, this is my interpretation. Starts with one soloist, a mother who has lost a child and is in mourning, and then all of her friends join in, right? But they are mourning in their own way, at their own pace. That's a better way to say it. And then we get the entire community to jump in. And it starts with the tenors and basses in unison. We will do something about this, right? Homophobically? No. I don't know that that's a word, but I still like it. And they are still right at their own speed and all morning. And then finally, we get everyone together with the mother leading the group, right? And the mother is leading the community, and they are unified in their effort, but there is a clear leader, right? And that leader is saying, this is not okay. And then the full community is answering, you're right, this is not okay. Then we get this middle section, and it would be important to know what the dialogue translation is. I actually don't know. I have the choir music here, and I could look it up, but I'm not going to. Then, this is what's interesting to me. It flips, and the community becomes the leader, right? And the soloist has a chance to just relax and take a step back. They're still involved. They're still active in it. But the community is taking the lead and pushing forward ahead of the leader, so that the leader doesn't have to do all the work. And then we end with a callback to how we were right up here. So I just think it's important to note that's part of what you would write up in your write-up in a little paragraph, afterwards. So it could be something like, and we're basically done. So if you want to stop watching now, you can. But I'm going to give like this is a really rough, quick, on the spot, in Michael Barrett's arrangement of the apartheid protest song Senzeni na. He uses form. Well, we don't want to say he does, but there is a clear change in texture throughout, while maintaining the full integrity of the original melodic form. That's a lot of big words, I know. What does that mean? It just means that we hear first this melody, and it's just A, B, C, D, and that really never changes. We don't really hear fragments of it. It's always just A, B, C, D. So the form of the main melody is the same, but he changes the texture. That way we don't get bored, because it's a very repetitive, simple song, right? So as I was listening, and it is okay to use terminology like this with IB. That is totally fine. I couldn't, as I was listening, I couldn't help but to, on my own limited understanding of the apartheid movement and the impact it must have had on literally millions millions of lives. I found myself wondering if Mr. Barrett specific as to pick a female soloist to start the song off as if it were a mother a son as a consequence of the apartheid regime. That soloist, mother, is then joined by other soloists, mothers in the community. You could even put this part like in fast forward so you can just see what I get to at the end. But then you don't hear my great commentary. That soloist is then joined by other soloists. What time is that? What timestamp is that? That is 1:45. So you could say timestamp 1:45. Then the entire tenor and bass sections enter in tempo and with homophonic texture. Oh shoot, I made a mistake. This is not homophonic, it's monophonic. Because there's only one voice, so that's my bad. In homophonic texture, while the sopranos and altos continue singing the main melody at their own pace and without a clear tempo. Okay, blah, 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 right? You get the idea. So everything I've said, but you're putting it in a paragraph notation. Okay, I hope that helps. Beautiful song, incredible rich history. Don't just throw that away, right? These songs mean something, and there are literally millions of people who sang those exact melodies and words in some of the most horrific and worst moments of their life. And I think it's important to just take a moment and to respect that. All right, thanks so much for listening.